If you think Yemen's problem started just these days or these months, you have to think again. The volatile situation in Yemen is a result of more than one decade of turbulence and violent clashes between different factions in different places in Yemen. Of course, as we know, 8 years ago, there was a military intervention by the Saudi-led coalition fighting the Houthi armed group in Sana'a. Today, in the conflict in Yemen, we are in a very different stage from where it was in the beginning when the conflict began in 2015. But I think it's worth to highlight that the Saudi role today in Yemen could be summarized as by that it's the only factor that makes the Yemeni government survive till today. The humanitarian situation, with no exaggeration, it's catastrophic across all Yemen. In the north, where it's controlled by the Houthi armed group, millions of civilians, especially the ones that work in the public sector, have been deprived of their salaries for more than 5 years. And that has directly impacted not only those civil workers, but also their families, their relatives. And then when you go to the south, the primary factor of the devastating humanitarian crisis is the lack of one authority that is governing the south. So while we see the Southern Transitional Council and the Yemeni government trying to control different parts of the south, unfortunately, state institutions and running people's affairs has been completely neglected by those authorities. So people in the south, they don't even have an access for making income, or businesses are shut down. The rising prices of fuel, so many factors are impacting people in the south. But the one common thing between the north and the south is that civilians are paying the heaviest price for this strange situation of no war, no peace situation. Civilians are put in this limbo, and they are the ones that paying the heavy price. Peace talks or peace building process in Yemen has been in the making for many months, starting in particular sort of unpublic or mysterious mediation happening in Oman. I say mysterious because we don't have enough information about what goes around in those rooms where the different warring parties are meeting and having discussions and negotiating. And then the second phase was for the Saudi and Omani delegation going to Sana'a last month to meet with the Houthi officials in Sana'a. That was a significant phase in the process of these peace talks. We are expecting to have another round of the talks very soon. Again, we have little information from the warring parties about the progress of these talks and when exactly they will happen. But I would say the highlight of all these different stages is the exchange of prisoners from both sides, meaning from the Yemeni government and the Saudi side, and then the other side from the Houthi armed group. I personally got so many messages from journalists that were released in those prisoner swap, and I was more than delighted to receive their messages and that they're finally free and they're doing all right. So that was a huge relief and a huge positive sign for so many Yemenis. It seems things are going so slowly, and the political will is manufactured or being, organized, or the influences for the political will to go forward is really complex and takes so long time. I would say this is one key obstacle. And then the other one is the different factions that emerged under the 8 years of conflict. Today, you don't have one or two warring parties. You have so many, and everyone wants a little piece of the cake. And every party wants also to be at the negotiation table. And unfortunately, the international community understands this very, very, very slowly. So for the international community, and here I mean the UN-sponsored talks, the UN is very slow in understanding that all these factions and all these warring parties should be included. And here I in particular, I point at the Southern Transitional Council that has been sidelined for many political talks. One of them, for example, the one of the major one was in Stockholm in 2018, where it was not on the negotiation table. So without including all the political powers, the military powers in the negotiation table, unfortunately, we will see just 10% of peace, not even a lasting peace. Yemen's unity is becoming, as we speak, becoming weakened by every second. And I say this because there is not just an increasing discussion between people in the south and people in the north about the possibility of separation, but also because the Hadramaut government in the far east of Yemen they're also having like a really heated discussion about separation as well. So maybe 10 years from now or 20 years from now, we will have 3 Yemens. And even like the people in the south or Hadramaut, they don't even consider themselves as Yemenis. They call themselves Hadramis or Southerners, but not necessarily Yemenis. So on the ground, there are almost little signs of unity. Today in Yemen, in the south, you cannot use the same money print that people in the north use. There are different military structure. There are different economic structure. There are 2 separate, or the central bank has been split between the north and the south. So all these indications tell you that we're going toward division. It's really hard to predict the future, but what I see is that there has to be a way for Yemenis to decide by themselves, for themselves, if they want to see so many Yemens or just one Yemen. The democratic process that should happen inside Yemen. And I don't see that happening immediately today because we have extremely oppressive rule in the north under the Houthi armed group. And then on the south, we have a mishmash of different authorities that have no reference whatsoever to the constitution or any political framework. So I cannot see people's power and people's decision translated or materialized very, very soon. But it might take so many decades for that to happen.